Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Today we are going to talk about addiction and choosing recovery. So I have my aunt with me today, and she is going to discuss this topic with us. Melanie, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Melanie Vovk, and I am married and have 3 kids and live in Castaic, California. And I have been in the fitness industry for 34 years. I teach group exercise, and I'm also the group exercise director at my club, and I'm a personal trainer as well.
Awesome. And Melanie is probably my first fitness idol. I don't know if I'd be into fitness without her teaching classes and getting me into it. So we're going to just get right into the interview. So talk to us about the first day that you kind of realized, okay, I'm an alcoholic.
I think I knew I was an alcoholic for several years, but didn't want to admit it or face it. It was a lot easier to mask my feelings with alcohol than to deal with trying to think of life without drinking. On October 8th of 2004, I was watching Oprah, and it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was drinking wine, and Oprah had someone on her show that was a stay-at-home mom like me and had 2 little boys and drank until she passed out every night. And it was kind of a wake-up call for me and a godsend, I would call it. And I realized that I did have a huge problem, and I realized I needed to quit. I got up and went in the other room and called my sister Sherry, which is Emily's mom, and told her that I was an alcoholic and I needed to quit. And she didn't know, so she was surprised. But I knew I needed to call somebody who I could be accountable to and say it out loud, and started my journey there.
Wow, that's great. So once you realized that you needed to change, and you had someone to be accountable to, what was the first thing that you did to kind of begin that journey?
The next morning, I started looking in the phone book for rehabs, and I found a place called Genesis in Southern California, and I called them and made an appointment to go in and talk to the supervisor. And I think that was a Friday, and I went in and talked to her on Monday, and I stayed sober the whole weekend. And my husband went with me. I don't think he believed me.
You don't think he believed you in what way?
That I was serious
About recovery?
about quitting. And then I went to Orange County for a week, and both the supervisor at the rehab and my husband thought I was going to go drink for another week, and I didn't. I stayed sober, and I started an outpatient rehab program the following Monday.
Wow. So, talk to us about the rehab and how that went.
The rehab was 4 nights a week, which was perfect for me because I was mainly a nighttime drinker. When I was done with taking my kids to school and picking them up and teaching my classes and things like that, and I knew I could stay home for the evening, that's when I would usually drink. So I think my outpatient rehab was 4 nights a week from 6 to 10 p.m. And I look back on it, and I was pretty ready. I think I just knew it was the time to quit, and I just dove in, and I just did what she said. And we had to go to 2 AA meetings per week on top of the 4-night rehab. It's really hard adjustment for my family because my kids were used to me being home at night, and my husband was used to me being home. Nonetheless, I was usually drunk when I was home, but at least I was home. So it was a big change in the family dynamic.
Yeah. So, Alcoholics Anonymous is famous for their 12-step program. So talk us through that. What was maybe the hardest part of that 12-step program for you?
You know, I don't think I had a real hard time with any of it. I mean, it was one day at a time. It was giving up the alcohol and not getting through the day without the alcohol.
Right.
But fortunate for me, I've always believed in God. And a lot of people come into Alcoholics Anonymous without a God. And all the 12 steps are about a higher power, and a lot of people have problems with that. And that was very easy part of it for me. So I got a sponsor right away. I went to a meeting, and this man told me that this one woman needed to be my sponsor, so I asked her if she would be my sponsor. She's been my sponsor ever since, and she took me through the steps. And from admitting I was powerless to carrying the message, I went through the steps thoroughly and been sober ever since.
And it's an ongoing thing, right? You continue with Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes, I'm very sure that I'm an alcoholic, and I know that I can never drink again, and I know that one drink could possibly lead to death. And I think not doing what I'm supposed to do scares me enough that I do it, but I enjoy it. I enjoy going to my meetings. I don't talk to my sponsor a lot, but I know that she's there if I need her. And I also am very open about my sobriety, and that helps me, because when I'm in situations where there's a lot of drinking, people always know that I don't drink.
Yeah.
So it's not ever an issue.
So talk to us about, I'm sure that part of it is pouring yourself into hobbies, finding other ways to feel fulfilled so that you don't want to fall back into drinking. So talk to us about some of the things that you've done to maybe that were new or that you had done before and picked back up.
For the first year or two, I have to admit, I really didn't do a lot different except for go to meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I turned from wine to sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So I ate a lot of candy the first 2 years. And I felt justified to eat my candy because I couldn't have my wine anymore, so I ate my candy. So I really don't remember doing much of anything but trying to stay sober the first couple of years. Then I slowly got back into running. I had been a runner early in my 20s and then not done any races or anything for a long time. Started running again. I've done 12 half marathons in the last, I would say, 9 years, and 2 full marathons. So that was kind of something I started doing, more of. I love to talk people into doing things they don't want to do. So I encourage all people at my gym to start running and doing marathons and doing 5Ks, 10Ks, and started training runners to do half marathons, full marathons. Got busy with that. A couple years ago, I don't know why, but I thought I'd try to learn how to swim. People had told me to try to learn how to swim for years, and I said that's never going to happen, so please don't talk to me about that ever again.
I mean, you could tread water, couldn't you?
Yeah, I wasn't scared of water.
You just didn't know how to swim laps.
Right, I could dive off the diving board and rush to the side.
Right, yeah.
But I had to plug my nose, always plug my nose. And my husband's a triathlete and had done a lot of triathlons, so he always wanted to try to get me to swim. So I was on vacation in Mammoth one year and just decided to go get in a little pool that was at our condo, and he tried to teach me, and my daughter still laughs. She says, "Mom, you look like a 5-year-old trying to learn how to swim." And I said, okay, well, I guess I have a long way to go. And then he worked with me, and I started a master's program at the place I work. Mm-hmm. And I got to be an okay swimmer. I by no means great swimmer, but I got to be an okay swimmer. But then I tried to do a triathlon, and the open water freaked me out, and I had to come in the boat like 3 times. I couldn't make the swim on the triathlon. It was very humiliating.
But that didn't stop you. So where did you go from there with swimming?
The first time I got in the boat, I sat on the curb and cried.
Yeah.
I think my husband made me get on the bike and finish the bike and made me do the run. I did not want to do that, but he made me. And then I sat on the curb and cried for a long time and had a lot of anxiety about it, and I just could not relax that whole week. I was just so distraught about what I was going to do. And there was a triathlon the next weekend. Like, I think Thursday of that week, I decided to try it again, and I made it. That triathlon. That was like a sprint triathlon in Newport Beach. So it was a huge success for me, but the fear didn't end there. It just, there was a few more times when I didn't make the swim and had to come in on the boat. And we have something where I live on a lake. It's called Castaic Lake, and I was able to join a open water swim class there, and that saved me. I was able to go out 3 times a week and swim in the open water. And a friend of mine took me out there. It was very sweet and said, you know, let's just swim to this buoy, let's just swim to this tree. Took it very lightly with me, and I was able to overcome my fear for the most part. And I did 2 half Ironmans with still some anxiety and some fear. One of them was in a river, and that was fine because I could touch the ground most of the time. The other one was in the harbor in Oceanside, California, and it was really cold, and it was really tough, but I did it. Last year, I got a crazy idea to try to do a full Ironman, and I trained hard all year. I hired a coach that worked with me mainly over the phone and through email, and I think
Bought a new bike.
Invited
a lot of us in the family.
Yeah, unfortunately. Invited a lot of my family, spent a lot of money, got PRP injections in my knee, got cortisone injections in my back, went to physical therapy. It was just the whole year I was consumed with training for this race. And I had done the full distance swim in the pool and in the lake, I think 3 or 4 times, under 2 hours, and the cutoff was 2:20, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I never really had fear of not finishing before the cutoff. I knew I wasn't going to be fast, but I never dreamed that I wouldn't be fast enough.
Right.
Well, race day came, and I was a little bit late getting in the water, which set me back a little bit. And then I was really relaxed, and I was really optimistic and felt really good in the water. Granted, there was no one by me, but I thought everyone's just faster than me. And I swam it, and I missed the cutoff by 90 seconds.
Yeah, that was a hard day.
Probably one of the worst days of my life. Really surreal. Got out of the water and kind of couldn't believe it happened. And my friend Angela was there. That she was volunteering for the race, and she was there and said, you know, sweetie, I'm sorry you didn't make it. And it was just very humiliating. And my whole family was there. And it just, I was just standing there on the shore of the lake, and I was just in shock. And I obviously, maybe I'm still not over it. I thought I was over it until the tears came back. Went into a pretty big depression. For at least 3 or 4 months, I was in a pretty big depression. Didn't get back in the water, didn't get on my bike, didn't run much. Did a half marathon in December and walked it. And about a month ago, my friend Angela and I went to lunch, and she's done, I think, 2 other Ironman, and she said, Gina and I are going to do the Texas Ironman. And of course I was thinking crazy thoughts again. And it was the perfect opportunity for me to try it again because Angela and Gina are somewhat my speed. So I have someone to train with for Texas Ironman May 2016.
Wow. So when will you start training for that?
I just started Master's Swim class again week before last. I know my work is cut out for me in the pool. I've been biking a little bit and running a little bit, but the main training, August will start our official training date, but the hard training will probably start in November.
Wow. So, anyone out there who has any kind of addiction, what advice would you give to them?
You know, I know a lot of people with addiction, and I'd love to just grab them and take them to a meeting, but that's not the way it works. Addiction is tricky. You have to be ready. You have to know deep down in your soul that it's time to stop. And that's a hard place to get to, but a lot of people do get there, and there is hope. I couldn't go, up until the time I quit, I couldn't go one night without drinking. Ever. I was really the type that didn't try because I didn't want to give up my wine for one night.
Yeah.
But something switched that day, and I feel like it was truly a miracle. Whatever people want to call it, a God shot, a miracle. Some people say when they reach their bottom. But there's help out there. I mean, if you throw yourself into a program and you get involved in the fellowship and you go to meetings and you talk to people with similar problems than you too can have a life beyond your imaginable, beyond your dreams.
Yeah, and surrounding yourself with the right people.
It's a huge part of it. For a long time, I didn't really go to parties with my friends that were still drinkers. I just wasn't comfortable with it. You have to know when to say no and when to say yes. Yeah. And I've got to the point now, after being 10 and a half years sober, that it doesn't ever really bother me. However, I went on a cruise a few weeks ago, and I wasn't tempted to drink, but I wasn't enjoying being around the people that were drinking.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, in your recovery process, what would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned from your personal 10 and a half years of being sober?
The biggest thing I've learned, and it's been a process, and I'm still learning, but the best and biggest thing I've learned is to let go. You can't be in control of everything. And I remember when I first came into AA, people used to say, "Don't you have a problem with control?" And I thought, no, I don't have a problem with control. And then you get to know yourself, and you want people to act a certain way, and you want them to do certain things, and you want life to go the way you want it to. Sure. And when it doesn't, that's when I drink.
Sure.
Yeah. And the serenity prayer is so cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to accept the things you can't change, and I've gotten so much better about that. I'm still struggling some days, but you just, when you can try to change something, great, but when you just need to accept it and move on, that's a huge blessing because it frees you from trying to control it.
Sure. And you already mentioned, when you go into AA, you have these 12 steps, and that's connected to a higher power. But just specifically for you, what role has God played in your overcoming addiction?
Well, first of all, I really believe that it was God the day I watched Oprah, and it was meant to be that I quit drinking because my husband has shared with myself and with the supervisor at my rehab that he didn't have very much longer left in him. So I don't know how much longer I would have been married and had my kids. But I jumped in with both feet, and I have a stone at my clubhouse, in my AA clubhouse, and it says Melanie V, and it says my sobriety date, and it says hit your knees. And I always tell people that are really struggling with God to hit your knees, because it's something about hitting your knees when you pray that humbles you more before God and gives what you're asking for more power.
Sure.
So God's played a huge part in my recovery. I mean, you have to have a higher power to turn things over to. When you have to give up control, you have to just turn it over to God and trust God that things will work out the way they're supposed to. And I continue to hit my knees every night and thank God for my sobriety and ask for another day, one day at a time.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to share with us in connection to your sobriety or your path? Or
I just think there's always possibility. Don't give up. Whether you're running a marathon and you're at mile 22 and you just want to give up so bad, just give up. Don't give up, because mile 23 or mile 24 you might feel better. You just never know. I've been on so many athletic events where you get to a point where you think, I cannot go on anymore, and you go on for 10 more minutes or an hour more, and all of a sudden you feel better and you're able to finish what you set out for. And the same thing with addiction. Some days you think, I can't get through it without the next drink.
Sure.
And sometimes it's minute by minute, and sometimes you have to use your tools, and you have to call your sponsor, and you have to call somebody, and you have to hit your knees and pray, or you have to sit in a beautiful place like this and meditate, or write a gratitude list. Do something to get you through that moment, because that moment might be the series of several challenging moments to come, or it might be just a few challenging moments, and then you'll get through it, and then things will be better. So there's just always hope for a better life, and I have a life beyond my wildest dreams today. I am hoping to finish an Ironman next year. I have 3 great kids. I have a great husband. I have 2 gorgeous golden retrievers. We have to talk about them. And, I get to work in a job that I love. I love talking people into things they don't want to do. And going on crazy journeys with people. It's very exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your insight and your words. And like she said, there is always hope. You can always find an organization out there and surround yourself with people that can help you and get you through. Thank you so much for joining in on this webinar, and we'll catch you next time.